Hey, welcome to Drew's Book Reviews and Epic Talez.
You already know.
We're here to talk about Rage of Dragons. If you want to know what we think of Rage of Dragons, which is the viewer's choice review for my channel this month, stay tuned. That's coming right up here on Drew's Book Reviews and Epic Talez. Alright, let's talk Rage of Dragons. Make sure you hit that comment, like, and subscribe button. Check out the links below. Check out Epic Talez. This guy does some epic animations. If you have not checked out Epic Talez, you've got to do it. Alright, let's talk about Rage of Dragons, man. This was a book that has been hyped so much on BookTube that everyone wants to know what we think of it. And I think we've got two different kind of unique perspectives on it, which I think is just awesome. So if you don't know about Rage of Dragons, book by Evan Winter, he is a Canadian African author who wrote this book based off of African-based inspired fantasy, which I thought was really cool because so much of the fantasy we have, a lot of it's like this European medieval fantasy, so it's so nice to have something a little bit different.
And something that I just have to cut it right there because I feel like he pulled it off. He was able to pull off. I felt like I was imagining pre-African history, like pre-colonial history Africa, while I was reading the book, because he was able to capture the essence of the lifestyle and the mentality and the way of thinking. Now, I have to say that this book was very, very special for me. Why? Because it felt intimate to me in a way that fantasy usually isn't. Now, fantasy is home for me. Fantasy is home for me. Like, you can ask it, like, I've been reading fantasy for a long time and it's home for me. But this felt even more intimate because some of the names of the characters, for instance, that were being used are names of friends that I grew up with. And I was listening to the audiobook as I was reading it. I was listening to the audiobook as I was reading the ebook. So I was also getting to enjoy the narration that accurately pronounced the names the way I heard them when I was a kid. So this one is a little bit more special than others for me, and it's a book that I thoroughly enjoyed.
That's awesome. I have no idea how to pronounce those African names, so I'm just reading it, and I'm just like reading it how it seems to be pronounced, and I'm probably completely wrong. But you know, I love being immersed in kind of that African caste culture setting that takes place within this book, which I thought was really awesome. So it is set up in this caste system, and I'm trying to avoid spoilers. But the gist of it is there is this caste hierarchy within this world that's been created, and based on some conversations with you, it sounds like it's pretty similar to the kind of caste systems that have been in place in Africa, whether that's now or historically. How accurate that is.
Like pre-slavery, pre-colonialism, before we were colonized and everything. I cannot for a fact say like this is how it was, but it felt very familiar. It felt very plausible. Like if I watched on a documentary that spoke about how things were set up before colonial history, I would say, okay, yes, this makes sense, you know. And the caste system of how there are different classes of people within a society. In some places in Africa and in Nigeria is where I'm from specifically, like in some places that kind of hierarchy is there, and sometimes it's based upon like maybe let's say a tribe has lived in an area for longer, so they're like they will be of a higher caste system, or say they are the majority of their like they have higher numbers, then they could be like of a higher caste than other groups of people that are it just felt very accurate to the essence of what it could be like, you know.
That's awesome, and you know, I love hearing that from your perspective because, like I said, I'm not familiar with that African culture and history. So when I'm hearing from you how it's so well done. I can only imagine how much more or clearer perspective I might have had I been more familiar with African history. In fact, between reading the book and hearing what you have to say, it actually makes me want to know more about that African history, which is just really awesome. And the character of Tao, I love the archetype character of Tao. Is this guy, he's at the bottom of the barrel of society, and he just wants to fight his way to the top, and he refuses to accept what everybody tells him, that you will never be what you want to be because you're just not in. You are the bottom of the barrel of our society. You need to just give up and stop wasting your time with this. I love how he's like, screw you, I'm doing this, I don't care, I will succeed. I don't care what you have to say. And the way he succeeds, I mean, there's demons in this book. And just, this guy is nuts.
He's absolutely nuts, guys. I'm telling you this, like, Tao is not just, it's not, he goes beyond the archetypes, because he's very single-minded. He's very single-minded. So he has one goal. Understatement of the read the book, you understand why that is an understatement. But he has one goal, and nothing distracts him from it. And if you've ever read the book by David Goggins, where I think it's Can't Hurt Me, it's that same kind of mentality. And Tao is a very interesting character. I like how Eva Winters chooses to develop him as a character, because just as Drew was saying, it's a situation where everyone is saying you can't do this, you can't do it, do this, and he's like, I'm not going to listen to you, I'm going to try anyway, I'm going to do every single thing I can, everything within my power I'm going to take control of, and I'm going to get myself to where I want to be. So like, Tao is one of my favorite characters, like, right now. Like, I'm still riding the hype of reading Rage of Dragons, and guys, there are moments in this book that are just, they are way too epic. Like, it's just, oh my god, like,
his friends having to pull him back because he's,
oh my god, Tao got me so hype at some points in the book that I was just like, yes, this is a protagonist that I can support.
I don't know if it was preconceived ideas from seeing other booktubers spoiler-free reviews of this book or not, but many have said that they were just wanting to scream at Tao for some of the decisions he made, and I honestly found myself feeling the same way. And maybe it's because I already had this notion that was going to happen from seeing other reviews on it. I don't know, but there were definitely moments where I said, oh my Tao, what are you doing? Like, we get it, we know what you want, but you really need to pull back just a bit. You're gonna get it, don't worry.
So that specific, so I feel like if you're reading it in a fourth if you're breaking the fourth wall and you're reading it, of course you can tell him, just calm down, you're going to get to where you want to get to. But for the kind of situation that Tao was in, I feel like he had so much working against him. Like, he had so much working against, even at some point, let me not spoil anything, but he had so much working against him, and he had to fight a lot of mental battles, as well as, of course, physical battles and everything. But I could constantly see him battling with himself and battling to break the norms and expectations that were put on him. And it's kind of like, I feel like that depiction of him lashing out, and I'm going to be careful so I don't spoil things, but that depiction of him, that depiction of constantly lashing out and going over the top, it's I feel like it's characteristic of someone who is trying to, who is just constantly fighting with himself and all the circumstances that are around him. I didn't have a problem with that. In fact, I didn't have a problem with that. Like, there were points where I was like, well, I wish you'd handled that better, but I felt like it was still very true to the character itself. So I had no problems with that specifically.
100%. I will say this, when an author makes you mad at a character for doing dumb things, that to me is an indication that author is a good author. They know how to write it.
Yes,
I mean, when consistent. They can get a reaction out of you based on what's happening with that character, you know they're doing a good job.
Yeah.
I mean, I've read many books, thousands probably at this point, and there are many times where the character's doing dumb things, and I'm just like, whatever, I don't care, because I didn't come to care about that character.
Yeah.
But when you come to care about a character like you do with Tal reading through this book,
oh my god,
and you start screaming, what are you doing? This is because you care about this character. The author's done such a tremendous job making you care about this character. Now, one thing that there were kind of two things there that were maybe a little bit much for me in the book, or just things I didn't like, but they're really, I guess, minor. And one of them is the vast majority of this book is training. And while definitely it's through the training that we get that character development, I can understand why some have felt that the training was just too much. There was too much training in there, and it just took up too much of the story. So I can understand the feeling of some people on that, because it didn't really seem to progress a whole lot through the plot until towards the end. It's kind of nuanced. It's hard to really say if it was good or bad, but
like I understand that, and if you ever get to watch Blood Song, hopefully I have released my review by now. I'm literally animating, and I'll probably show Drew some stuff later. But Blood Song, a good chunk of it, there's a lot of training as well. Yeah. But they get past the training, and then it's real world situations. Now there is a lot of training in The Rage of Dragons, but there were also the reason why I didn't particularly have a problem with that was because there were also real life consequences of that, and it was also a good way to really hammer down, and it might have been overdone a little bit, but I didn't have a problem with it. It also doubled down on explaining how the caste system worked. So how they were paired up with other groups that they wanted to, I'm trying not to spoil it, but the pairing and how everything was working against them, it felt very real. And it also helped me scale how much stronger Tao was becoming, because it sometimes you're kind of you're not quite sure how strong or how competent a character is until he's faced with real situations. Now, with everything that was working against him, seeing how he was fighting his way through it, I was able to scale how powerful, how Tao's increase in competence, as well as understanding the caste system, plus there were real life consequences, which I'm just reiterating again.
100%.
But yeah.
Well, I will say this: if this were a standalone book, I probably would have rated it much lower because of the extensive amount of training. And
I completely
with
agree.
that, there's just this is the only book. Well, you'd spend way too much time on one aspect of the story if it were a standalone, but it's not. As far as I know, there's going to be, I think, 4 books.
Yeah.
I think so. This is the first in the series, and it does a really good job of setting up the series and the overall story arc. So you got to go into it with that in mind, that this is a first book in a series. It is a setup for the rest of the series in a lot of ways as well, and that is kind of an important aspect of that. So while some people are like, oh, too much training, and even I thought you could probably take a little bit of the training out there and progress the story a bit more, it's not the whole story. This is only one part of that, right?
I agree with you. You made a very good point there. If this was a standalone, then I would absolutely loathe the training so much. And something else was that, and one of the reasons why I strongly agree with you there is because the book was constantly rising. The anticipation of the book was constantly rising. Even with the training, you're like, okay, when is it going to actually
totally
get stuck in it? And at where the book ends, you're just like, how dare you carry me to this peak and just leave me there,
Well, that's the great thing about series that I absolutely love about series in general, because when you read a good book, if it's a standalone and it's a great book, it'll drive me nuts because I want more of that world. And that's what series are so good for. The one other aspect of this book that kind of I didn't really like about it, and this isn't just because of how it was done in the book. It's honestly a trope I just don't like: forbidden love. I can't stand that joke. It's like the Romeo and Juliet. I feel like it's overdone, the forbidden love. So of course, we've got Tao and we've got one character, and I'm not going to say who, avoid spoilers and who this person is, but there's this forbidden love between the two of them. And as soon as that was introduced as the forbidden love, I'm like, oh, please, not the forbidden love trope.
You know the trope. You know the trope I hate the most when it comes to love, like romance. I hate the love triangle. I hate it so much. It somehow I always like the character that is the third wheel, the character that the girl doesn't like, and it just frustrates the hell out of me. But I can totally see why. Like, I know a couple of book readers that don't like that same forbidden love trope.
Yeah. I just want to touch a little bit about on the demon aspect of this story. I love, it's a really unique approach. I've read several books and several series that have demons in them. And I want to be careful how I word this because I don't want to spoil anything. But I love the way the demons are involved within this story. I mean, in almost every book with demons in it, they're often from an alternate realm or dimension, which is still true for the case for this particular series. But it's a very unique way of having demons within the story and how they interact with their characters in the story. And we have part of Tao's training. Of course, there is the military training that he's going through, but he's also kind of done this self-imposed training with the demons as well. And I just want to leave it at that because I don't want to spoil anything. But that's part of Tao's craziness is his training with the demons. But I love the way that those played into this story, with them being in this alternate realm and that kind of thing, which I thought was a really cool way to go about that. The magic system in this book kind of with the demons is very interconnected with the demons in this demonic realm where they draw their power from. Again, trying to be vague here because I don't want to spoil anything, but I love that aspect of it. I love the demons in it. I love the description of the demons in it, and I love the battles with the demons in it.
Would you agree with me that this is a very difficult book to talk with no spoilers when it's so exciting to talk about?
No idea.
It's so exciting to talk about. So shout out to Ben's Book Cave and Brandon Bennett because they kept telling me to read this book. They knew I was gonna like it, so thank you. Arigato.
I will link them in the description below, so definitely you could go check them out as well. I'm pretty sure I'm already subscribed to both those guys, but honestly I'm like 500 videos behind at least. But yeah, I mean, Rage of Dragons really is for a debut novel, entry level, I would say it is really, personally I rate it 3 of 5 just because the forbidden trope and excessive training kind of drove me a little bit nuts. But for me, a 3 out of 5 is not a bad rating. That is still a good rating. It's high enough that I will continue with the series, and I could only expect that this is going to get better. The setup in this book and the world that's been created, I'm like so pumped to get more into that. I love that aspect of it. And it's just a fantastic read. I loved it. Congrats, Evan Winter, who published this as self-published initially, and it got picked up by Orbit Books. Just fantastic. World building is one of the things I loved about this book. And I am really excited to get into the second book, which I'm going to be reading this month.
Yeah, I'm going to be reading it this month now. Like, right now, I cannot get enough of Tao. Like, I need to know what he does next.
And, you know, there you have it. There's our thoughts, our feelings on Rage of Dragons by Evan Winter. So, Epic, your video will probably be up after mine. You put a lot of work and animation into that, which I absolutely love.
Thank you.
I think you do a fantastic job with that. So definitely make sure you subscribe to Epic Talez because you're going to want to see his animations that he does for his version of this video. I can't wait to see it myself. There you go. Rage of Dragons. It is a highly recommended read. Definitely go read it if you haven't already. Check out both of our channels, like, comment, and subscribe. And, you know, as always, until next time, keep on reading.
Stay epic.
All right, bye.
Peace.